know it's crazy, but it's
You're watching Channel Z, the world's leading zombie apocalypse channel, broadcasting live from Studio Z.
Makes me act the way I do.
This is the apocalypse you have all been waiting for. Welcome to Late Night Brains, where you can relax, be yourself, and let your brains hang out. I'm Athena.
And I'm Dave Lundberg-Kenrick, and yeah.
We are so happy to be sharing brains tonight.
Yes. And shall we bring on...
Yeah, we're going to jump right in and invite Baba Brinkman to join us and share his musical interpretation of today's events. Baba,
No
what did you think of today?
Just dive in. Just
We're
go
gonna.
for it.
Well, what did you think of today? We'll do a little preamble.
How are you?
Yeah.
I feel like this was the day when zombies became the most relatable. That's going to be the theme of the rap. Is like they are us, and anything about them that's scary is what's scary about ourselves when we look deep, and we just need to understand them as a phenomenon if we want to evolve ourselves in the right direction. So. I tried to create like an empathy rap around zombies, but what a great set of speakers and themes the whole day had. And yeah, I mean, people who have been tuning in the last few days, they know the drill, right? I'm like listening all day for like 6 hours. I'm taking all the notes. And then the last 3 hours, I'm trying to jam it all into a track. And do
Baba,
you know, Athena, off your head, how many speakers there were today?
There were a lot of speakers. I don't actually know off the top of my head. A lot. Yeah. What was your favorite part of the day, Baba?
I mean, I guess I really liked Donna Zuckerberg's takedown of the white supremacist co-optation of classical symbols because, I studied the classics too. I've read Homer, and I mean, I'm Chaucerian, so it's like my specialty is more like medieval England and medieval Europe, but I just hadn't really heard that story before. And it was disturbing, and I felt like it was like personally offensive to me because, I think it's important to criticize and analyze classic literature and not try to make it say the thing that you think it says in order to march under its banner. It's for everyone to participate in the scholarship. And, it's like just the idea of people thinking white supremacy when you say Homer, that just feels so tragic to me, like it's got to be, we gotta like take it back.
Agreed. Well, Baba, are you ready to play your tracks and jump in with the wrap up of the day?
Yes, indeed. And I got my little iPhone beat production system all set up here. So let me throw it on a lap board this time so I can sit back and take people for a ride in my little cockpit.
Awesome.
Okay.
Oh, so a reminder to everybody, you can post your comments. Later on in the show, we will be doing a comment-based freestyle with Baba. So don't be shy about posting those comments all throughout the show.
And, something that happened yesterday that I thought was really fun is that people who had actually been tuning in throughout the day and recognized the shout outs that I was giving in the rap were like putting those in the comments when they heard something that resonated with them too. So I would really encourage people to do that because I don't know necessarily that what I'm noticing is what other people are noticing. And when I see those comments, I'm like, yes, that was the button I was trying to push. So please feel free to do that. All right, here we go. Yeah. This is the zombie relatability rap. Gotta get in that groove. Can you feel the future vibe? Yeah. Day 3. This week has been crazy. Zombies overrunning the streets, aiming to brain feed. Go bags packed, survivors eat, pray, flee, and fall prey to the undead wave. Rage feast, day 3. The pandemic is way deep, and now I'm thinking maybe us and the zombies could make peace, cause we are the creatures that they used to be. So don't say us and them, just say we. Say we should try to protect them. Chelsea Weber Smith, don't blast them in the rectum with your Daisy rifle, or try to vivisect them, cause we all fall somewhere on the zombie spectrum. Conspiracy theories, catalog and collect them, from the Unabomber to Mo Lotman, the techno skeptic. Even Mo is checking emails on a modem from Belkin while eating alone, with no Diego Guevara Beltran eating alone. Damn, you can sense something is off. It feels wrong in the cosmic drama. Just ask Sam Kestenbaum. It triggers a pandemic 5G series of fallacies, American hysterical fantasies, conspirituality. Maybe Clint Kalin will corroborate me. I saw a pack and play on your shelf, so you had some babies zombified to provide what they need in your home. Save me the good drugs, baby. The dexamethasone. Ooh. Dr. Joe, Dr. Zed, hit me with the hard stuff. Go bag full of pills. Shout out Emily Zarka and Catherine Townsend for the Wendigo cannibal class. The most important thing to pack in a go bag is a cat. And not to eat it, no, because it is not an it. It's hairy like Cousin It, but I bet she never even thought of it. A cat is a pet, or he or she, a pronoun. We treat it like a person when the apocalypse goes down. That's the moralistic power of linguistic stories, dehumanizing the other. Ask Linda Flores, unless it's neither dead or alive, which is non-binary. I'm a zombie, pronoun-wise I identify as Z, a ghost in the darkness where the hungry lions feed. Gwyneth Gordon can tell by the isotopes in my teeth. You thought you was looking zombie fabulous? I agree. Brains, the original ketogenic diet meat, flesh, and not the fresh blood vampires need. That's a more aristocratic, charismatic kind of beast. Allegory for medieval people wasted by disease. Elizabeth Langland, set that fetish for vampires free. You know you gotta fetish for vampires, yeah, but when it comes to being zombified by a screen, I'm listening to Mr. Srenivasan. My guide is Sree, deliver us from presidents who are gross to a utopia with mandatory QR codes. I did what you told us. I put grayscale on my phone like an infectious rash you can catch in Game of Thrones, like Jorah Mormont and Princess Shireen. Deliver us from red priests with zombie cult beliefs. Deliver us wisdom, Sree, from San Juan, Puerto Rico, like the lack of regulation is making Facebook evil. Whoa, come on, Sree, that may be an overstated thesis. Shout out to all the live streaming Facebook people, and not only the straight white males either. Shout out to Donna Zuckerberg. That segue should be illegal, but I'm a classicist too. I did my Geoffrey Chaucer homework, so I take it personally. The zombification of Homer? How dare the manosphere rip the Iliad off and try to co-opt it as a cult symbol like Pepe the Frog. Anti-Semitic, misogynistic, white supremacists are no match for Donna. That's the modern type of feminist. Any zombies online get locked in chain link fences. That's a public service quarantine, a containment method. And Donna, I have to shout out your famous sibling, Randy, and all the Tony Awards she keeps on winning. We connected in New York a couple of years ago, and your mom and dad literally came to my off-Broadway show. So it's good to meet another kindred spirit who likes to chop up the classics and find wisdom in the lyrics and still criticize lots of it and decolonize all of it. You did it with post-colonial studies, I did it with hip-hopping. So which of those two is a more risky topic? Let's ask Christy Roshka. Humans are fruit flies on a peach. You gotta flick us off it, so flick us off it. There's too much QAnon online. Red pilling zombies. Call yourself a proud boy if you want. You're still a Nazi. Your plantation fantasies come out when you're feeling cocky until someone calls you out. Shout to Mozilla Kazi Kone. Yesterday I pronounced it a little sloppy, but that's the beauty of evolution, mutation to better copies. Flaws in technology, we thought it was helping, overlooking all the trade-offs, highlighted by Robin Nelson's self-driving zombie cars with falsy sensors, and dark skin doesn't trigger the brakes or the soap dispensers. People of color shot by cops, they're supposed to protect us. Hair trigger finger, but no sense of connection, no person detected. Brains infected robotic, ask Von Becker. That game theory has no logic. A smoke detector is supposed to emphasize the positive. Now apply that to humanity. Every human life has got it. Now imagine a smoke detector that identifies zombies. Like, there's a zombie, there's a zombie. It's a byproduct, a useful byproduct to see a zombified concept everywhere. That's useful when you're organizing a conference. Zombies everywhere. A zombie dance party with Jessica Phillips Silver jamming to Ballad of a Zombie. Feed your social media feed. That's metabolic. Consume content produced by Jeanette Vigliotti. Consume Caroline Owens and Teresa Gildner. Cy Common. Low-tech podcasting without the high wattage. Inside a cottage explaining the science of sausage for the third time, Athena, not literally. Okay, I got it. Shout out to the futurist correspondent Gary Dirks. It's time for intervention. The pandemic left us very hurt. Pretty soon the zombies are gonna crash all the barriers. Shabam! With Wendy, Roder Weiss, and Josh Kurtz. Schwafi, food, shelter, water, fire, food. That's the sacred order, dude. Until the pace of life improves. How likely is it that zombies are gonna come and eat us? Check the readout on all your truth probability meters. I say it's likely to happen, but probably not tonight. Here on Late Night Brains, that's a prediction of Roger White as an economics correspondent. Yeah, he represented. Call it what you want, just don't call it unprecedented. Call the zombies part of us. They're a manifestation of our insecurities, our psychological adaptations, and that's the hard problem. Can we grab and embrace them without having them grab a whole taste of our faces? Hey, it's day 3. This week has been crazy. There's zombies overrunning the streets, aiming to brain feed. Go bags packed, survivors eat, pray, flee, and fall prey to the undead wave. The rage feast, day 3. This pandemic is way deep, and now I'm thinking maybe us and the zombies can make peace. Cause we are the creatures that they used to be. So don't say us and them, just say we. They are the creatures that we used to be. So don't say us and them, just say we. And we are the creatures that they used to be. So don't say us and them, just say we.
Wow. Whoa. The zombies in the studio loved it, Baba, and the audience on the feed was going wild, and we'll pull some of those in for when you freestyle with us later.
Cool.
Yeah, so Baba, I don't know what to say. Your brain's just on fire.
Yeah, I really got into it today. I felt like I really wanted to just craft this one like it could, like it could last. And
yeah.
The rhymes were coming tonight. I was inspired.
Yeah, I feel like the refrain, like that could be a rap that you would take away from this, maybe.
I might have to make that song, Don't say us and them, just say we. It could be like a collectivist anthem. Like a lot of your research is relevant to that question, isn't it?
It most certainly is. So we'll have to definitely keep talking. And speaking of talking, I want to bring in our next guest, journalist and professor, Sreenivasan. Sree, thank you so much for being here with us.
I'm so happy to be here. Just say we, as I learned from Baba. That was amazing. And on the 48th birthday of Eminem, you're
That's
doing
it. Baba. Trying to carry the torch here.
So
for people who missed it backstage, Dave said, I didn't know Eminem was so old. And then I said, I turned 50 in a week. So be careful with that old reference over there.
I turned 42 in less than a week as well. So we got similar birthdays.
So, yeah, I'm in the middle, you guys. So, but yeah.
I'm doing great.
So how you doing,
Sree? Really energized. I had said earlier I was a little tired, but now energized by that rap and how you weave all of that together. That was amazing. Really impressive.
Well, thanks for the material. As soon as you said put your phone on grayscale, I was like, that's a pandemic reference right there.
And I got the very cool Game of Thrones references in there. So I'm looking forward to the lyrics and doing something with that. Well done.
Thank you.
So Baba, tell us the Game of Thrones lyrics. My brain wasn't able to like pull it all together as you were saying it.
It goes by really fast, doesn't it? Here,
Yeah.
let me find it. I read the Game of Thrones books quite sort of avidly, and here we go. So Sree, when it comes to being zombified by a screen, I'm listening to Mr. Sreenivasan. My guide is Sree. Sree, deliver us from presidents who are gross to a utopia with mandatory QR codes. I did what you told us, put grayscale on my phone like an infectious rash you can catch in Game of Thrones, like Jorah Mormont and the Princess Shireen. Deliver us from red priests with zombie cult beliefs. Because there's the whole like red priest cult in Game of Thrones, right? But also Shireen has grayscale on her face. So anyway, it seemed to all fit together.
Grayscale turns people into zombies, right?
That's
they
exactly
go through that island, and so yeah.
There's
and
two kinds of zombies in Game of
Thrones.
Thrones, right? Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Well, the grayscale is the ones. I guess they were both people, right? Because the White Walkers were dead, and then they come back to life. So they kind of are both.
I mean, they make them out of the babies from Craster's incestuous horde, right? That's how they're presented as the origins. But grayscale is just something you catch, and it turns you. It's like the leprosy of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask. I've always been meaning to ask someone who studied the book so carefully. How do you think they transferred online? I mean, onto the screen.
I think it was absolutely amazing for all of the seasons except for the last one, and I think the last one should have been at least 2. And it was one of these like, as a person that makes music and makes videos, I know what they're about. They're like, here's the budget, here's the amount of narrative we're trying to cram, let's see if we can squeeze a lot of narrative into not much budget. And then you're like, what? Like, they took their time to lay the story out, and then someone at HBO said, no, you only got 7 more episodes, and they were like, oh shit, let's just kill everybody. And it just didn't feel as satisfying as the rest of the build, so it felt like a ripoff to me. But like, as a whole, brilliant. But at the end, I was like, oh, come on, spend a bit of money. Like, you took us on a 7-year journey.
What I understood was that the directors, the main guys, also had gotten a big new deal to make, of all things, an alternate history of the Confederacy, where we are a Confederate country after that. And so they wanted to make, first of all, why would you want to make that right now? And they got distracted. I don't know how much of that is true, but that's what a lot of people said.
Yeah. So maybe it wasn't all money. Maybe it was creative, but it just felt impatient as a storytelling exercise. But I mean, I agree. I highly recommend the books, especially the audiobooks are read by a really brilliant British actor that just has this grizzled, old school storytelling voice. It's really, really great to listen to.
Robin Nelson says they opted out. So, just coming in from the side.
Yeah.
It's hard to begrudge artists for creative choices. All I can say is, like, I don't think I would have made that creative choice. And as an audience member, I felt like I had problems with it. But everybody's got a life to plan for themselves. So
I feel like if Robin's a Game of Thrones fan, maybe we bring her on for a few minutes if that's what we're talking about.
Well, let's just bring Robin on because she's our next guest anyway. So Robin Nelson, thank you for being here with us.
I was backstage like, yes, let's talk about Game of Thrones. I actually have a Game of Thrones, like, you can't really see them, but like, see the figurines on the back shelf there, the Funko Pop toys. Half of those are Game of Thrones. So you can see. Yeah. So, I'm a fan. And just like you, I was a fan until the last season because they kind of, And then remember, they used to make us wait also, like maybe a year to a year and a half between seasons. So there really was quite a dramatic buildup to get to the last season. So that was a little bit
it felt like 3 in 1, and that's why you don't want to make The Lord of the Rings into a 3-hour movie. You want to make 3 3-hour movies because it's such an epic spread, So,
that's right.
Carlos.
I don't want to bitch about them too much, but
pointing out that they were, off script, so that might have had something to do with it. They didn't have, George R.R. Martin's storyline to go with. They were having to create it. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of making us wait, that's the other end of the spectrum, right? The show got impatient, but the novelist is just like...
He's an artist. That's an artistic choice.
It's like, I don't even remember when I read the last one. I was a different person back then.
I wonder if there'll be like pressure to make, his version whenever the novel's done and time has passed. There'll be like a reboot of just the last 2 years, and it's so different.
Yeah,
Everyone
it'll be like
that was too young to watch these ones will have grown up and be hungry.
Yeah.
So I want to circle us back to, we've got a couple of zombie apocalypses happening in Game of Thrones, right? But what do you think about our moment now? Sree, do you think we're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, or at the beginning, or at the end, or just not in one? What are your thoughts?
Well, the president assures us that it's all done and it's almost over. So that means we're definitely in for the worst yet to come. We are joking around a lot in this conference, because, as I said, if we don't laugh, we'll cry all day. Athena taught me that about 200 days ago when she was on my show. But I think we shouldn't forget that people are making life and death decisions based on the equivalent of zombified information coming from our president and the governors. I mean, I think I let the governors off the hook, the ones who would go against, like, some cities were able to do mask mandates, and then the governor would come in and cancel the mask mandates. I mean, this would be as if grayscale, there was a way to prevent it, and the certain levels of government would be like not letting you have this free, easy way to prevent it, and instead encouraging. It's like lighting a fire in this situation, and that's what's so upsetting about everything that we're going through. I think that as we looked at, you may have seen that now we're on our third peak, and that is so scary compared to every other country in the world. We are, as you know, 5% of the world's population and something like 20 to 25% of the world's deaths, and that tells you that America has failed in every way to slow this down. We want to, of course, continue to salute our first responders and our medical professionals, but they were overwhelmed and betrayed by this government, and I'm so upset, as you can tell, about it. So sorry.
Continuing the analogy, it would be like the president and the governors had crusty grayscale all over their face, and they're doing press releases and press conferences like, "Don't worry, it's going to go away. We all know, it cures itself. Just be patient." And everyone's like,
and doing high fives at their events. Like, that's also.
I mean, they did have great. Wasn't the second to last season basically them just trying to convince people, seriously, the White Walkers are coming?
Yes.
It's going to be trouble, right?
Yes.
And so, yeah. I was thinking, actually, even today, Sree, thinking back to movies, you were saying that that zombie movies really don't predict it. But I was thinking the one movie that predicted it really well was Jaws. Did you ever see? You remember where they were like, "Let's open the beaches. We got it. We got the shark. Open the beaches," and I was like, that one kind of nailed the reaction, of nope, done, we beat it, and then
Yep, got to keep the tourists coming.
Yeah.
Does that mayor get eaten in Jaws, or does he just send a bunch of tourists to get eaten?
I don't think he ever goes in the water. I didn't see all the sequels, but
the foreshadowing kind of demands that someone gets eaten after that scene. From
Oh, yeah,
a literary perspective.
I think a kid gets eaten. I think there's
a bunch of people get eaten. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. It's a great movie for this time. Actually, we watched it just I don't know, a month or two ago, and we're like, yeah, right on. This is the horror movie for the moment, even though, Jaws is not a zombie technically. It is kind of about, zombification.
How does a zombie shark differ from a real shark? That's the interesting question.
Yeah.
I feel like that question must have been answered on the Sci-Fi Channel at some point. They must have made a zombie shark movie. If not, I think maybe that's a gold mine.
We got the Sharknado films, right? I mean,
yeah.
That whole, the sharks were coming out of the sky. They were coming out of, they were.
And then they had Megalodon. They had a whole couple of years where it was all the biggest, whatever you could come up with. But I don't know if they've done a zombie shark. I feel like really that's what we should be spending our time right now, is writing up a zombie shark movie.
I never thought of it before, but maybe Sharknado was like a false flag right-wing debunking of leftist paranoia about climate change.
Yes.
The Sharknadoes are coming if we listen to Al Gore. Maybe it actually had a propaganda agenda that we never thought of.
Well, hey, Robin, what are your thoughts? Are we in a zombie apocalypse right now?
We could be at the beginning of one. I mean, we're definitely at the point, so some of my favorite films are sci-fi films where they're based in just enough science to kind of make it interesting, but not so much that it slows it down. So think about something like A Day After Tomorrow, where you have to go think about paleoclimate in order to understand the weather patterns that are happening now. And people have said this all over Twitter. It's true. We're definitely at that moment, and I guess we're now 7 months in, so we're deeper into it than I wish we were, where no one's listening to the scientists, right? And it's like, so if we're not already in it, we're definitely at the beginning of one. And, as I said in my talk, like, if we're looking for the signs that we would see, if that like literature and pop culture have taught us about what a zombie apocalypse would look like we're already there. We have people who, there's a run on groceries. You can't find toilet paper for several months. No one can leave their house. You have people who are the most vulnerable doing all the labor, where people who have really cush jobs can stay at home and work. Like right now, I'm in my office at work with big computers, and I haven't had to work on the front line, right? And so, we definitely are at that moment where you see the disruption in society so that our everyday practices can no longer continue, and people are having to recognize their own vulnerability. We're definitely at that moment of the zombie apocalypse, where no matter how safe you think you are, in a lot of zombie films, it's a fungus or a virus that's causing the zombie apocalypse. And we are literally dealing with a virus, and viruses don't discriminate. So we're kind of there.
Yeah. Well, how do you think this whole issue of like the possibility of asymptomatic spread ties in? I mean, that's not something that we usually see like in zombie movies or even just generally contagion movies. Mm-hmm. Usually you can see, right?
Yeah, but you always have a few people in these films who don't tell someone when they got bit. Right. And we also have a few people who continue to go to work even after they came in contact. So, in a lot of the films and books, there's this in-between period. And while there's not asymptomatic spread quite the same way, there is always that fear that there's a carrier amongst you that you just haven't detected yet. And I think that we definitely have to deal with that when we think about our own vulnerability to asymptomatic folks.
Mm-hmm.
There's also that fear of, am I infected? And I don't know it. Like that's often like when I first got, because ASU is now doing these sort of random COVID testing, which is really nice. But I remember waiting those first few days and thinking, oh my goodness. So, yeah.
What do you think in terms of how to motivate people to take public health seriously? Like from what I've read, the kind of we language works, right? Like we are in this together. We must all as humans fight the virus. But then when you look at the inequalities of who's getting it and who's bearing the burden, somehow that whole we're on all in this together thing can start to feel a bit hollow, and it clearly needs to be problematized. But then there's a practical question of how you motivate people as well. So like where do you fall in this tension of we're all in it together versus pay attention to the differences?
Well, I guess I would say that like part of the challenge, we are coming up on this pandemic in probably the worst moment in recent history for us to come up against a pandemic. And I'm thinking maybe right after September 11th and the kind of social discord that caused for people of color, for folks who are Muslim, for brown-skinned people in general, right after September 11th. But we have governments across the country, and as Sree said, not just the president, also governors, right? Also local mayors, who have basically encouraged discord instead of community. And public health is really about seeing yourself in other people and recognizing, like wanting to do something for someone else. So when I take my kids to get a flu shot, we talk about their teachers. We talk about the lunch aides. We talk about everybody that even if they could survive the flu, I don't want these other people in the community to get sick. And this is how we keep everybody well. But, if you've gotten to a space where we have really created an us versus them conversation in every aspect of our lives, that is the worst moment to be dealing with a pandemic, because a lot of the people who, I won't say a lot, but some of the people who support Trump and other conservatives who are kind of science deniers are also in very privileged positions where they can kind of avoid a lot of the contact that other people are susceptible to.
What's
Or if
crazy
you
is that
think you get the biggest and most powerful, potent, cocktails of drugs in the world, and they'll save you. And as many people have pointed out, when he was sent home, he wasn't like sent home to my home or yours. He was sent home to the White House that has better facilities than most hospitals in the United States. Since we're mentioning movies, if I can just share my screen for a second.
Yeah.
Fun with Jaws 19. Does anybody remember Jaws 19?
Oh, sure.
That's from the movie Back to the Future Part 2. And you remember this scene?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
look at how high res 3D is in the future.
That was 5 years ago, right? If you remember, it was 2015. So we're due for that. We have not.
And Donald Trump's in that film, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Oh my God.
Athena, maybe you know something about this, but what's been really surprising for me in the pandemic is that from what I've read about moral psychology, conservatives are supposed to be more infection averse than liberals, right? That's like the whole theory of conservatism versus liberalism. Liberalism like seeks people to trade with at the risk of infection, and conservatism like bands together more with the tribe and walls off because of the potential of infection. And now you've got, I mean, that's like Jonathan, there's this whole thing about moral foundations and dumbfounding, and now you've got the conservatives in America that have made a badge of membership out of disregarding infection threat, which means there must be like these parliaments of instincts that are fighting it out, and the sort of affiliation with Trumpism has won, overwhelming their generally more infection-averse instincts, right? Have you?
Yeah, I think actually there's
anything
been
like that?
some recent work showing that it's a little more complicated than the sort of, conservatism just going along with the sort of, germ phobia. So I think there has been some recent work on that. So yeah, I think it is a more complicated landscape than what has been sort of thought in terms of the
It
relationship.
kind of overturns the prediction of the theory, doesn't it? This experience says there's more to it.
Yeah, so I want to bring in, we have actually a special guest, Joe Alcock, aka Dr. Zed. He is here with us tonight, and as you guys all know, in the before times, Dr. Zed was an emergency room physician, and so I think Dr. Zed, you have a unique perspective on the zombie apocalypse that we're in at the moment. What are your thoughts? Is this a real zombie apocalypse?
It might be, Athena, and thank you, and hi to everybody. So yeah, in the before times, I am an emergency physician, encountering all manner of patient care, acute events at the university hospital. So is this infectious disease a zombification or a zombie apocalypse? I think in some ways it might be. The president is modeling exactly what we do expect if the virus was in control of his central nervous system. He's doing everything, it seems like, that would increase the spread of the virus. So it's worth thinking about. I don't think this is necessarily the end of the world, that kind of an apocalypse, but it's certainly is a very dangerous thing. It makes me approach work differently, that's for sure. I certainly like to, I try to model good behavior, but when I'm not at work wearing personal protection equipment like this, we have our ZAM 2020 face mask. But yeah, but I think as you alluded to, Athena, this virus does exhibit some manipulative features. It seems to have a bunch of non-structural proteins that downregulate the host immune response, that evade our immune defenses and make people feel like they're well when they're not. And so that is part of this asymptomatic spread that you were talking about.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit, Joe, you and I, about the nervous system effects, right, and the effects on smell, which is something that parasites often do to manipulate their hosts' sociality. So, seems like there's some smoking guns.
There are a couple clues. So yeah, it seems it has a mechanism of invading the brain. For one thing, the virus infects the lining of blood vessels, and so people have pointed out the fact that the SARS-CoV-2 virus can infect and affect every organ in the body, including the brain. So we shouldn't be too surprised that it affects our behavior. But it has that strange feature that we've noticed with this infection, maybe more than others, that it obliterates the sense of smell. So one thing that I do maybe every morning is that I try to smell something and see if I can still smell. That's my own personal COVID-19 test to see if I'm infected. But infected people, it does go through the olfactory bulb into the central nervous system, and that is a route by which it can get up into the brain. And as you mentioned, the brain being the part of your body that does control your social behavior, we do know that other infections, other microbes, even parts of your microbiome affect your social behavior in ways that may actually increase the transmissibility of that microbe. So this is known in the biological world. Apart from COVID, SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19, seems to do some similar things.
So the minute I feel an overwhelming urge to go to the club, get tested, is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm suggesting. Yes.
I wake up every morning and smell my really smelly dog, and I'm still alive. Oh my God, I'm still alive.
That's the pinch yourself to see if you're dreaming move. Smell your dog.
Yeah, dog smell is generated by the dog's microbiome. So what you're really smelling are little molecules that come off metabolites of the microbiome of the dog.
Wow.
So is this lack of taste and smell? Do you think this is something that's functional? Like maybe you know how like toxo changes the way like rats react to like cat urine? Like
that's right.
That's a hypothesis.
There is some evidence to suggest that rodents or rabbits that are infected by toxoplasmosis, they lose their aversion to the urine of the predators, like a bobcat or a house cat, or maybe even a puma, if you're a larger mammal. So that's really good if you're the parasite, and it's very, very bad if you are the infected mammal, the prey of the predator. So yeah. So we do know that certain kinds of parasites can affect the behavior of their host and actually do some brain hijacking. Is this loss of smell an actual hijacking kind of a thing? Maybe. It fits. Some parts of the puzzle seem to fit, and I think that we could certainly argue that's a plausible hypothesis.
Is there research into how fast that evolves? Like if it's not in a microbe, but it's so advantageous, like could it happen in a matter of weeks or months or years because of how rapid the reproduction rate is?
Anytime there are huge opportunities for proliferation of an organism, and especially when that organism mutates rapidly, there are increased opportunities for adaptation to evolve. We'll also have opportunities for maladaptive features to evolve, but those will be removed from the population pretty quickly. SARS-CoV-2 is thought to not evolve not to mutate quite as rapidly as certain other kinds of dangerous pathogens, HIV being an example. We don't yet have a vaccine for HIV, but because SARS-CoV-2 doesn't mutate quite as much, we think that we have a better chance of generating a vaccine.
So let's, I think, we've covered the zombie apocalypse that we're in now. Joe, thanks for sharing these thoughts. And, these are, I think, really important issues. If there is some behavioral manipulation that's happening, that's going to have implications for how the disease spreads, right? So that's going to affect then how we parameterize epidemiological models and how we do interventions. So so stay tuned for the further work on the possibility that SARS-CoV may be zombifying us, something that Joe and I are actively working on at the moment.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I want to pull us back to just real briefly. There's another kind of zombie apocalypse other than SARS-CoV, which is the sort of social media zombie apocalypse. And Sree, you have lots of great tips. You shared with us some amazing tips today. I know I'm not the only one who's changed my phone to grayscale, so it's really boring. I don't really want to open it up anymore and do anything on it. Do you have any other tips for us for dealing with the tech zombie apocalypse, in particular the ones that involve these little computers that we carry around with us all the time?
Do zombies have any history of being successful with their phones and doing anything? Is that?
Yeah, to de-zombify themselves, maybe.
I do want to point out that listening to our tech skeptic today was eye-opening for me to find somebody who not only doesn't have a cell phone in this day and age, someone who also doesn't use plastic or has removed plastic from his life. That's something that's hard for people to do, but he was participating somehow on our show and still had a landline. So altogether, that was a fascinating conversation. And in terms of social media, I think that some of the things that all of us could do better is to think about who are we connecting to and who are we following on social. One of my mantras is it's not who follows you that matters on social, it's who follows you that matters. And what the social media platforms, by making the number of followers you have a currency, right? I call that the original sin of social media, by having the follower count so public and so obvious, that then once you make something into currency, then people will steal it, forge it, lie about it, copy it, sell it, etc. And that's what's happened. Just like in an apocalypse when currency is at a premium, I think that's what's happened. So I always give lots of credit to LinkedIn for stopping at 500 and just staying over 500. And I also am glad that Instagram no longer easily shows publicly the likes you get, because we've seen people thirst after those likes, and as a result, get addicted to it and do terrible things. But if we could all just think about this idea that who you follow is not as important as who follows you, meaning it's more important to have kind of influential people and have them follow you rather than trying to get tens of thousands of followers yourself. One of the people I know out in Philadelphia is one of the most interesting and most successful people in tech in Philly, and he has like 400 followers because most people have no idea that he's on social or he's on Twitter. And so this obsession we have with follower counts is part of the problem and why we have these many issues in social media.
Thanks, Sree. That's great advice. So kind of, don't focus so much on whatever is the currency that you're seeing on social media as like the, evidence of how popular you are, but rather think about the quality of that network and how to cultivate a network that is going to, help feed your brain as opposed to consume it.
You make me feel consoled that my low follower count may be making me a better person.
Thank you, guys. Sree, thank you for sharing those insights with us. It is time now for my favorite time of the evening, when Baba does a freestyle rap, and we're going to invite everybody in the audience to Apocalypse Improv with us. So send your choicest moments of the day. If you've got your fears and hopes, if you've got your jokes, Baba's going to mix it all into an improvised freestyle apocalyptic rap for tonight. So Baba, the floor is yours.
All right, whatever shows up on the screen, that goes in the rap. That's the deal. Yeah. Double take, look twice. Brains at late night. Come on, check it. Yeah. I mean, my dog smells gross. It's probably because of its microbiome. Yeah, it's cause I feed it lots of Fritos. Its diet is nothing but ranch Doritos. That is not so healthy, but I think the dog feels worth when it smells me. See, yeah, I'm rhyming with all the different people that be running from the viruses. Is how it goes, yeah, I'm just meaning this. People that could cure it, they would be geniuses. Oh, but I'm gonna have to see where the last 2 seasons were living. I don't know, I'm unforgiving. Those zombies, those White Walkers that George Martin put in the show, man, I thought they were freaking awesome. Like the zombie sharks in the Tornado movie. That was kinda dope, but maybe it was choosy between different political sides. Kicking the rhymes, people listening, they listen to the emanations of my mind. I don't even know where they go, but I'm disturbed by the likes as forms of manipulation. The social system basics, the brain system, where are we gonna take it? Evolution is any single direction. That's the thing I'm learning through my introspection. The sharks be taking us, they're mad predators. This is how we do, this time is not innocent. Back to Game of Thrones, just remember that when we didn't have to feel a viral trap closing in on us with mad claustrophobia. Yeah, check it out, I'm just opening up an encyclopedia in my brain, say feeling like a zombie like brains. Yeah, just breaking down the basics. When the comet went over the head of Richard Dreyfuss, just like the comet in book 2 of Game of Thrones. Yeah, that's how it do. What is it? Portend? Is it an omen? Is it common? People don't know whether it's their fault, but if they believe in it, then they're part of a cult. I mean, check it out, I do it anyway. I could just rhyme all day. Who am I gonna date? What does my microbiome say? I don't know, I just feel it's so explosive. I'll date anyone when I have toxoplasmosis. Yeah, check it out, it makes me so impulsive, so I just do it and I don't care if it's my fault. It's just a function of my brain. I rock the energy, feeling nothing but the mad empathy, connecting. Don't say they, just say we. All my people just watching right now in this stream, indeed. Yeah, rhymes that are all hot. Gotta give a shout out straight to Joe Alcock and Erica O'Neill. I just say what I feel. I think she got my reference when I talk grayscale. Yeah, cause I'm a J.R.R. Martin fan. I'm just making rhymes sparking. Damn, I feel like I'm just getting a bit redundant, so maybe I'll just move back my brain function. Yeah, this is straight up my dope rap business. Shout out to Dave and Athena Aktipis.
Woo! Awesome. Thanks, Baba. I unfortunately the zombies have fallen asleep. But oh wait, no, they're just asleep. But I think, when they do hear what you've had to say, they just have kind of a little bit of a delay in their processing. They're gonna just go wild for this. Oh yes, see, it just took them a while to process.
The problem is I can rap faster than people can type. So
that's for sure.
Yeah,
so
that is
we gotta be
very for sure. Yeah,
it's also pretty.
We'll give them like a 5-minute prompt, like put what you want to Baba to rap about, like in the feed 5 minutes, and then you can just like load them up.
That's right. Yep.
Like shotgun shells in the apocalypse.
That's right. So Baba, where we got to hear yesterday and the day before the anthem, the zombie anthem, and I was wondering, for you, has making the zombie anthem changed how you think about evolution and parasitism and these processes of zombification?
I mean, I think I kind of knew that there were zombifying parasites before, but what I didn't realize was how useful they could be as a science communication tool. Because each of us has this powerful feeling inside that we make our own decisions. And when neuroscientists tell us that all decisions are produced by precursor events in the brain, we just instinctively have a hard time believing that. And some people that really like meditate on the idea and absorb it say, now I don't feel like I have free will anymore. But I think it's a very sort of natural thing for us to feel like we have free will and agency. And when you see these organisms, you relate to them and you wonder what's influencing me now, and there's no denying what's going on. It's very sort of obvious and easy to get your head around when you see a hijacked organism, but it just, what it is like the best metaphor factory that I've ever come across in evolutionary biology for spinning off like allegories with social media and allegories with cults and allegories with political movements, and it says a lot about what we experience and how our brains work.
Or spinning off like a whole television channel with many different shows on it, for example.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen very soon, I think. The more the zombie apocalypse perpetuates, the better this channel is situated to tell everyone what's going on. So, I'm very excited about it earlier today, I was like, I got to sign off for 20 minutes. What I did is signed into another StreamYard feed, which was a freestyle rap battle that's hosted monthly here in New York that I'm competing in, and I had to rap for 16 bars where I drew a dog while I was rapping, but I couldn't say dog or anything about drawing or dogs, and I still got my dog drawing sitting right here. So it's like a game show. It's like the Jeopardy of freestyle rap, where they give you really hard challenges and you have to stay totally on topic, and then the judges disqualify you if you got anything wrong. But at the end of that little session where I tuned into that and then did my piece, I was like, you guys want to know what this crab's about? And these are not, this is like the New York hip hop scene. I don't think they had really come across this Saculina barnacle parasite, but it only took me 2 minutes to be like, okay, here's how it works. And they were all like, damn, that's crazy shit. It's like a very sort of fun and intuitive entry point to science communication. And I think, I've barely scratched the surface with the zombie anthem. So maybe we should just make a rap guide to zombies album that's 10 songs long, and it works out. We've just made the first single, so now we'll make all the other sort of allegorical parallels that we've been working out over this conference.
That sounds like definitely a great way to spend the apocalypse.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Call it us and them. And so.
No, Dave. That's
we.
Right. Not them, we.
Well, that's where you get to. I think you start the title is at the beginning, and then you. Yep. I don't know.
Or maybe you and your dog.
Maybe.
And just the political divisions right now, it's like that mentality of relating to zombies is just a good sort of meditative exercise. Let's see how far our sense of relatability can extend so that we can at least talk to Trump supporters. Because it's hard, man. I have an easier time relating to evangelical Christians that believe the world is 6,000 years old than Trump supporters.
Oh yeah.
A Trump supporter that's like a totally scientific thinker, I'm like, we just better not even go to this topic, because I feel like I'm just going to keel over if I hear what you have to say about it, So, but I know I got to get over that, because the conversations need to continue.
I mean, it's a tough time right now because, everybody has got kind of started to occupy, right, these, echo chambers is the term everybody uses, right? But we're in these worlds where we only see and we only talk to people who agree with us about most things. So how do you create these spaces where we can have conversations and discussions, across different belief systems, and, not just having different beliefs about the world, but also having different beliefs about how you get to beliefs about the world, different epistemologies. To me, that is the really tough part of all of it. And I actually see an analogy with a lot of what happens in academia, honestly, where in different disciplines, there are different beliefs about how you get to truth. And it can often be really hard for people to talk across those disciplines, because, people who are scientists, if you're not using the scientific method, they don't think that it's, a legitimate way of understanding the world. And, people who are coming from a humanities perspective, sometimes, they see science as not a legitimate way of looking at the world, and they have a different kind of approach to understanding the world. So kind of creating these spaces where at least across disciplines we can have conversations, and with different views about human nature and all of that, where we can come together. I think it's at least a step in that direction for starting conversations, making a space where we could talk about tough topics and disagree and have that be all right.
I mean, I will say, as a social scientist, kind of straddling these two spaces, one of the things that's popped up, particularly in this apocalyptic moment, is how you actually definitely need these two spaces in order to solve any complex problem. And so you have people kind of doing modeling, but not really putting in, and this happened with Ebola too, where people didn't quite understand cultural practices around kind of taking care of people who were sick and people who were dying. And then you're trying to, stop a virus, but you don't really understand people's behavior and why they're making the choices that they are. And, no policy will be effective, right? Or people will not adopt a vaccine when it's developed if you haven't kind of navigated that interpersonal gap a little bit before it comes out. And I was saying this earlier, but I think that is part of the bigger challenge of this particular political moment, because that gap has been kind of abused. And so now we're at a moment where we're trying to get at the best science communication and the best science in terms of virus transmission and all these things, and people don't necessarily trust each other at all.
Yeah. Yep. So, how do we help create this space? I think, apocalyptic rap is at least a place to start. Zombie rap.
I was struck by what Christy said today when someone, Athena, I think you asked her, like, how do you get at the truth as a science communicating journalist? And she was like, I've given up on the idea of the truth. I'm just focusing on like granular things that might be verifiable. And the idea of an overall framework is too hard to get people to connect with because there's so much disagreement. And at first I was like, no, don't give up. But, maybe I think there is something to that. And my science communication approach has changed over the last few years, to not really proclaim things as truth without following that up with a caveat that it's actually a probability. Like, it's most likely to be true based on the evidence as I'm aware of it, but new evidence would change my assessment of the probability. And even like the most ardent atheist or the most ardent evolutionist can't say 100% for sure. They can just say the balance of the evidence moves me to believe, and I would put a percentage on it that's very high. But anybody that says 100% sure, they're actually totally kidding themselves, because we don't even know if we're in the Matrix right now, right? Like, there's things that we can't disprove. So why ever be absolutely certain about anything?
Well, and Baba, I think to close us out tonight, you've got something for us along those lines, yeah?
Yes, I made an anthem when I discovered my second hero after Darwin, which is the Reverend Thomas Bayes. And when I made the Rap Guide to Consciousness, I was delighted to find that there's these Bayesian models of the brain as a prediction generating machine. And also the scientific method is kind of a prediction generating machine that hones in on sort of hypotheses about truth. And that's kind of what the brain does all the time. Exactly, that's what vision does. Right? There's no light in the skull. Vision is like a probabilistic guess the brain makes about what might be out there based on just like straight on neuron signals. So I tried to capture that in a rap song that also tells people what I'm doing up here. So anyway, this is good Bayesian. Yeah, I mean, as a white middle-class Canadian rapper, it's all about expectations, right? Let me show you how to be a good Bayesian. Change your predictions after taking information in. And if you're thinking I'll be less than amazing, let's adjust those expectations. So what's a Bayesian? It's someone who cares about evidence and doesn't jump to assumptions based on intuitions and prejudice. A Bayesian makes predictions on the best available info and adjusts the probability, cause every belief is provisional. And when I kick a flow, mostly I'm watching eyes widen, maybe cause my likeness lowers expectations of tight rhyming. How would I know unless I'm rhyming in front of a bunch of blind men dropping placebo controlled science like I'm Richard Feynman? Is it because of my looks or the fact that I talk like I'm mad for books? Either way, in the ecosystem of rap, I'm the platypus, so my patron saint on stage is Reverend Bayes. Just watch me update the equations in everyone's brains. I'm teaching a crowd about probabilistical statistical science. For instance, if the president's a proven degenerate liar, remember your priors. Be skeptical when he's testifying. Is it always inaccurate? No, but you discount outliers, especially when he's testifying about non-citizens, Muslims, African Americans, and other victims of dog whistling, bigoted, unconscious bias, unreliable information. The antidote is to learn how to think like a Bayesian. So let me show you how to be a good Bayesian. Change your predictions after taking information in. And if you're thinking I'll be less than amazing, let's adjust those expectations. Yeah, let me show you how to be a good Bayesian. Change your predictions after taking fresh data in. And if you're thinking I'll be less than amazing, let's adjust those expectations. There we go. That's what I got to say about that.
Baba, thank you so much for sharing your brains with us tonight. That was totally awesome. And thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight on Late Night Brains. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Sree. Thank you, Joe. And Baba, thank you one more time for bringing it all home with us with Reverend Bays. Maybe that's the new religion that we need for this time. Now, everybody,
I worship probability. I don't know about you, but
there we go. So don't forget to keep your senses sharp and your wits sharper in this challenging time. If you want to survive the night, be sure to keep your head on your shoulders and don't leave your brains unattended. And speaking of abandoned brains, stay tuned for Brain Dead Theater coming up next.
It's crazy, but it seems so logical. I can't deny that there is something supernatural with you.